These are the weirdest things billionaires actually bought, and trust me, they're stranger than fiction. Someone thought his backyard needed a giant shipwreck and went on to buy this $500 million full-size Titanic replica.
What?
And if that doesn't sound like one of the most eccentric purchases, you haven't heard of this $55 million beer made in space and this $1 million dwarf throwing contest. But let's begin this journey of unusual buys with something that'll make you want to live your childhood all over again. Let's begin with Bill Gates' trampoline. Now, he's no spring chicken, but that didn't stop him from dropping 50 grand just to transform an entire room in his mansion into a trampoline park. Sure, $50,000 sounds like peanuts to a billionaire, but can you picture it? Bill Gates, the tech genius, bouncing around like a gleeful kid on a sugar rush. It's almost too absurd to believe. This was just a pocket change in billionaire lingo, but strap in because things are about to take a seriously extravagant twist. I bet you didn't see that coming. Banana. There was this billionaire who thought it was a genius idea to spend over $100,000 on a banana. Yep, you heard that right. A banana. But hey, it wasn't just any banana. It was duct taped to a wall and hailed as a piece of art. And if that wasn't absurd enough, it was sold for a whopping $120,000. Some dude straight up ripped it off the wall and ate it. I think it's pretty safe to call it a potassium-rich masterpiece, isn't it? Dog. A billionaire loved his dog so much that he decided to bring it back from the dead. I mean, who needs pet cemeteries when you can have pet cloning? He dropped $200,000 to clone his dearly departed dog not once, but twice. That's right, folks, he had 2 zombie dogs running around with his puzzling investments. Something about that just feels wrong, and a tad bit creepy. Hamish Harding and the submersible. Meet Hamish Harding, a billionaire who's not your typical wealthy guy. He's done things most people can only dream of, flying around the world in record time, exploring the South Pole with his son, and even taking a rocket to space. But with all these outlandish splurges, he had one more item on the bucket list: seeing the Titanic up close and personal. The guy needed a real-life thriller, so his next move was a pretty obvious one. As soon as he heard about the OceanGate offering submarine trips to visit the Titanic wreck, he didn't hesitate to cough up $250,000 for a ticket. But little did he know, this submarine was like something straight out of a bad sci-fi movie. It was piloted with a video game controller.
What?
And to top it off, it was made out of carbon fiber, which is basically the last thing you want in a sub. Harding and 4 other brave souls descended into the ocean in this nightmare when the big day arrived. And we all know what happened next. The sub imploded instantly, tragically taking the lives of everyone on board. The media decided to spin a wild tale that the crew was trapped for days and needed an epic rescue. I mean, that's one heck of a fishy story. Richard Branson's submarine. In case you thought Harding was the only guy drooling over submarines, it's time to get your facts straight. Another guy, Richard Branson, owns an entire airline and decided he needed a submarine. Because, you know, when you've got airplanes, why not take to the depths of the ocean, right? He handed a whopping $662,000 to his trusty airplane engineers and got an underwater plane made just in time. But here's the punchline to this extravagant joke. Branson had grand plans for a record-setting dive to the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean. It would have been the adventure of a lifetime. We all thought so. But just before he could dive into the deep blue, none other than James Cameron swooped in and beat him to it like they were competing for the splashy waste of money. Pretty odd expenditures, but that's just how billionaires go on about their lives. Saudi Prince Al Walid. Now, here's a billionaire story that's not just weird, it's downright messed up. Meet Saudi Prince Al Walid, a man who decided that little people were his new playthings. He hosts bizarre contests to see who can throw them the farthest, as if that's some twisted version of the Olympic weight throwing contest. He thinks of these individuals as jesters and actually pays them a salary, totaling around $1 million each year. It's like a real-life freak show, but without the ethical compass. Or I'd call it one of the most abnormal acquisitions of all time. But wait, it gets even stranger. One time, he couldn't decide which private jet to buy, an Airbus or a Boeing. Now, guess what? He enlists 2 little people, has each of them advocate for one of the jets, and chooses the one that sounds the funniest. I guess comedy beats practicality when you're swimming in cash. He went to the Airbus, in case you were curious.
What?
And if that's not bizarre enough, there was the time he tossed a sack of $100 bills into a campfire, and a bunch of little people had to scramble to retrieve them. I think this one really takes the prize for the most bizarre acquisitions ever to exist. Want to know what billionaires buy when they're feeling extra quirky? Subscribe now and you might discover your next eccentric shopping idea sooner than you think. Elon's car-turned-submarine. Next up is our very own Elon Musk, the man behind Tesla and SpaceX, who decided to do what any sensible billionaire would do and spent a cool $1 million on a car that could turn into a submarine. Yes, a car that transformed into a submersible vehicle, just like something out of a James Bond movie. I mean, who knew billionaires had secret underwater layers to explore? Photograph. Billy the Kid. There's another billionaire who seems to have a thing for the Wild West. He dropped over $2 million on a single piece of paper, and not just any paper, but a photograph of none other than Billy the Kid, the infamous outlaw from the 1800s. I guess this billionaire has a soft spot for criminals or a peculiar fascination with Old West outlaws. That's just how strange shopping sprees can get for the ultra-rich. But hold up, because things are going to get even more weird. Jocelyn Wildenstein. If you think you've heard of peculiar investments, I think now's the time to challenge you. Here's Jocelyn Wildenstein, or the super famous Catwoman. After her divorce from her husband, she received a staggering $2.5 billion in the settlement. They really should have considered a prenup because what she did next is nothing short of jaw-dropping. What? With her newfound kitty-sized fortune, Jocelyn embarked on a feline-themed quest of epic proportions. She spent a mind-boggling $4 million on plastic surgery to turn herself into a living, breathing cat. She used to look like a regular human, but after years of going under the knife, she now roams the world as a real-life Catwoman. But here's the part that truly baffles the mind. By the time she hit 77 years old, she had managed to blow through her entire fortune, leaving her with a zero bank account balance. That's right, from billions to bankruptcy. I guess it's true what they say about curiosity in cats, except in this case, it's about curiosity in billionaires turning into cats. Well, guess what? The billionaire space race just hit another level of extravagance with the next Mr. Moneybags on our list, Ken Griffin. So, Jeff Bezos auctioned off a ticket to space, and billionaire Ken Griffin just couldn't resist the urge to win it. He splashed a jaw-dropping $8 million for that golden ticket. But when the moment of truth arrived, just when it was time to blast off into the cosmos, Griffin got cold feet. He decided to give his ticket to somebody else. I mean, talk about an $8 million case of space jitters. I'd say these are some really unique acquisitions. But I think after the OceanGate submarine fiasco, who can blame him for not fully trusting a hunk of metal with enough firepower to send you hurtling into the great unknown? But hold on to your space helmets, because that's not the only time a billionaire has spent millions just to lose it all. Name carving on island. So imagine you win a private island. What's the next logical step? Well, why not carve your name into it with letters so massive they can be seen from space? That's precisely what one billionaire did. But here's the twist. Just a couple years later, the ocean decided it had other plans. It washed away those colossal letters, taking a mind-boggling $22 million down the drain. But hey, there's more to the billionaire's world of bizarre acquisitions. Bill Gates. While we're at it, let's not forget Bill Gates, who has long been known for his curious spending habits. But this one time, he really decided to fascinate the world with a notebook by the legendary artist Leonardo da Vinci. Now, da Vinci was known for his quirks. In this notebook, he wrote from right to left. And let's be clear, this wasn't some trendy thing everyone did during his time. Nope. He was the only one going against the grain. I'm sure you can guess what he did next. He decided to drop a whopping $30 million to own Da Vinci's notebook. And just like that, it became the most expensive book in history. Because when you're a billionaire, why not splurge on a little piece of history even if it's filled with backward scribbles? But what if I told you there's nothing compared to a beer that's literally helping kids battle cancer like never before? Jared Isaacman. Cheers to billionaire Jared Isaacman for taking beer to a whole new level. And nah, I'm not talking about just the alcohol content. Jared was done with the regular Earth brewed beer, so he decided to take things up a notch and caught a SpaceX flight for a cool $55 million to brew a beer in space. Not just a little beer, but a whole 3,000 gallons of it. But here's why this story goes from wild to heartwarming. Instead of letting this epic beer adventure just be a viral stunt, they decided to put all that attention to good use. They used the buzz to raise funds for St. Jude, an organization that helps kids beat cancer and other life-threatening illnesses. And guess what? Their efforts paid off big time. They raised over $115 million, and to top it off, Elon Musk chipped in an additional $50 million. That's over $200 million in total, all thanks to the beer brewed in space. Who would have thought that beer could be the catalyst for making the world a better place?